Everything's Man United fans, and welcome back to another Man United exit list video. A couple of days ago, Fabrizio Romano discussed the departure of up to 7 players from Manchester United, and here we are updating the list and also share the latest details regarding alternatives for the players and the latest regarding Manchester United transfer targets. Timestamps are available in case you want to follow a particular player, but without any further ado, let's kick things off in this video. Now, there are several players whose situations are still up in the air. Before we talk about each and every one of them individually, first we need to talk about the players who have left the club officially. So far, the list of the players who have left the club consists of Phil Jones, Butland, Galbraith, Tuanzebe, and the last one on the list is David Degea, whose contract ended on June 31st and is officially now a free agent. The process of David Degea's contract extension took a lot of twists and turns, and by the time the player agreed to the new contract, Ten Hag had already moved on to the idea of acquiring a new goalkeeper who is confident with playing with his feet and can fit into Ten Hag's build-up style, which has been talked about a lot these days for next season. Ultimately, I think Ten Hag made the right move, but definitely let us know how you feel about the departure of all these players that we just mentioned, and in particular David Degea. Now that leaves us with Dean Henderson currently as our goalkeeper, and that is the first player that we want to touch on the situation of. A player who a lot of people think is going to be transferred very soon to Nottingham Forest for £20 million, give or take. Now obviously our target for the first goalkeeper next season is Andre Onana, and what's more to know is that according to Athletic and Fabrizio Romano, we have submitted a verbal bid in the amount of 39 million euros for the player, whereas Inter won 60 million for the player. The margin between the numbers is not too much, and let's hope that both clubs are going to be able to make some compromises so that by next week we can officially call Andre Onana a Manchester United player. Moving on to defenders, let's talk about Harry Maguire. It has been an insane summer transfer window for Harry Maguire. It's been linked with various clubs such as West Ham, Everton, and Newcastle so far. At this point, I believe most Man United fans, including myself, have made up their minds about Harry Maguire. He has no place in Ten Hag's team and is considered as a last resort. The only problem we face currently is the fact that we haven't been able to land a defender, and given that Harry Maguire is paid £300,000 weekly, in addition to the fact that financially speaking the club is not in an ideal state, I think the plans for selling him are on hold currently. Fabrizio Romano mentioned that there is still a chance for him to leave the club because the player doesn't have a future in Man United, but we'll have to wait and see what will happen regarding the player. His price tag is estimated to be around £40 million, which I think is reasonable. If we were to talk about alternatives, Axel Disasi is the only option available at the moment in the transfer market, but there have been no developments for his transfer to Manchester United, as Kim Min-jae, who Manchester United used to pursue, is now officially a Bayern Munich player and we can no longer chase him. Next up, we need to talk about both Alex Telles and Eric Baily. Both players are about to leave the club. It's only a matter of time. It seems that Alex Telles' move will become permanent to Sevilla, and as for Eric Baily, time will tell which team he will end up in. Now, it is estimated that we can bring our transfer budget by £12 million after selling both of these players. As for Anthony Elanga, the rumors are still going around that Dortmund is still interested in the player. Of course, his profile really fits Dortmund as a club. A young talented player who is in need of gaining experience, and Dortmund as a club is just the right club for him. The player is worth a number around £20 million. Hopefully a deal can be made with Dortmund very soon. Let's move on and talk about midfielders a bit. When it comes to Fred and Scott McTominay, now that Mason Mount is officially the new Man United number 7, I really wonder if Fred and Scott McTominay will find time to play for United next season. Though I believe the right move for both players is to find a new place to continue their careers, I can see Erik ten Hag keeping either of them. Fred and Mason Mount's play style is really similar to one another, but it is crystal clear that Mason Mount is a step up in comparison to Fred, and Mount has been a priority target for Erik ten Hag ever since the beginning of the transfer window. I believe next season, Casemiro, Mason Mount, and Bruno Fernandes are going to shape up our midfield positions with Eriksen as a redundancy. I can also see Scott McTominay filling the place for Casemiro as a defending midfield, but the summer transfer window is still going on, and there are already reports linking Manchester United with Sofiane Amrabat, a player whose play style can be really similar to Casemiro. Now, Casemiro, as we all know, is a key player, making our defensive side as strong as it gets by making lots of interceptions and giving confidence to other midfielders to push forward down the pitch. As a result, whenever he was absent last season, we suffered defensive-wise, which is why that Sofiane Amrabat can be even considered a sensible transfer for Manchester United. However, our budget is going to prove to be problematic, and we have not heard any reports showing that Amrabat is a target for Erik ten Hag yet. There is also a possibility where Erik ten Hag decides to sell Fred, since now we have a better version of him in the form of Mason Mount, and keep Scott McTominay as an alternative to Casemiro. With that in mind, both Fred and McTominay have been linked to a few clubs. Under the circumstance that ten Hag decides to sell Fred, the player is worth about £20 to £30 million. As for Scott McTominay, it is also worth mentioning that according to CBS, CBS, Mactomminay could leave Old Trafford in the coming weeks to secure more playing time. It's claimed that former Red Devil boss Jose Mourinho is tracking the situation with Mactomminay, as well as Mason Greenwood, a player who we'll talk about in the rest of this video. In addition to Rome, Brighton are also said to have followed the situation of Mactomminay as a potential replacement for Moises Caicedo, a player who is the target for Chelsea now. Definitely share your thoughts with us. Tell us the formation that you think Ten Hag will apply for next season, specifically when it comes to our midfielders. Now, before we move on, leave a like if you found this video informative. Also, consider subscribing to Always United for latest Manchester United news. Next up, let's dive into the latest in relation to Donny van de Beek, a player who I personally feel sorry for since many injuries never allowed him to fulfill his full potential. Manchester United seems as though to be ready for discussions about the player as well. It is possible to also sell the player for £20 million should any club express interest in the player. In addition to Donny van de Beek, Brandon Williams is another player that Man United can sell in order to make up for the transfer budget this season. Anthony Martial is a player who I don't see staying in Man United anytime soon. Though as I said, departure of Martial heavily relies on signing a new striker. The most possible striker to join Manchester United at the moment is Rasmus Hoijland. It's needless to say that if we get to sign Rasmus Hoijland, as far as the strikers are concerned, I highly doubt that Martial would find enough time to play next season. Now, as far as the latest for Mason Greenwood is concerned, Manchester United are reportedly set to make a final decision on Mason Greenwood's future before the end of July. He has been working with a private instructor, as he's yet to be invited back to full training at United and continues to be linked with clubs across Europe. Teams from Turkey and Italy are said to have shown interest in Greenwood, with former Red Devil boss Jose Mourinho again the latest to be linked with a loan approach. Also, a source has told The Sun recently that Jose Mourinho has rang Mason's dad and also spoke with Mason. He told him the best way out of his current situation is to start playing football and that eventually all the hassle will fade away. The source also mentioned that Mason was pleased that he got in touch and it has lifted his spirits. He wants to get back playing and is just waiting for United to tell him what the future holds. The report from Sun also mentions that United are also said to have been contacted by Juventus, AC Milan and Inter. Greenwood was included on the Red Devils retain list at the end of 2022-2023 campaign and is under contract with Manchester United until 2025. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I believe a loan deal is the right move for Mason Greenwood. That way he will get the opportunity to get back on track where he left off football-wise, and we'll see what will happen in a couple of years down the road. Now, best case scenario, if we can sell all the players that we just mentioned, our transfer budget for summer can be raised to up to £220 million, which will be more than enough to sign another midfielder, another striker. But as I said, it all depends on how well we can sell the players that we just talked about. Obviously, when further reports and rumors surface online, we'll definitely cover them for you guys on Always United. But until then, that's a wrap for this video. Share your thoughts on the players that we just mentioned in the video. Who do you think Manchester United should keep and who do you think Manchester United should put on the exit list? Thank you so much guys for sticking with me until the end of this video. Definitely leave a like if you found this video informative, and also consider subscribing to Always United for latest Manchester United news. Now, if you're interested to hear even more news, here are 2 videos that might catch your interest. But until next time, it's been a pleasure serving you guys.